Hi, welcome to Knits and Stories. Today we're taking a deep dive into everything that I've been knitting thus far in 2025. I've knit up. I've got a few finished objects for you. I then have a couple of whips. Some are some lingering whips. One's a little bit new for an upcoming event I have. So let's get into it. First up, let's talk about the sweater on my mannequin. This is the Anchor Sweater My Size by Petite Knit. I do believe this was designed as a children's pattern originally, hence why it's called My Size, because she scaled it up to adult sizes. This is technically a sweater that I knit in 2024. However, I never worked on the sleeves. I just did the entire body, and then actually, I think I got about halfway down and then I needed to finish it up. January here in Maryland was bitter cold, which was rather unusual. So I finished the body and then worked up the sleeves. I knit this on a US 6 and I used my Rising Tide Talbot fingering in an 8515 base in Luck of Legend, which is a colorway that's actually named after one of my sweet, adorable dogs. And then I held it double with my Somerset Surrey, which is an alpaca silk lace weight blend. This is the color Ocean Child. And so I held two strands together, and you can see it. The blue Surrey really kind of helped water down some of the lightness in this full skein. I opted to do a balloon sleeve on mine. So yeah, this one I did a balloon sleeve. I opted not to work on decreasing and making a tapered length sleeve. Next up, because it was so cold here in Maryland and we were getting so much snow, for some reason, I could not locate a pair of gloves or mittens, and I just said, the heck with it, I'm going to whip up a pair rather quickly. And so I used the world's simplest mitt. It's by Tin Can Knits. That is the name of the pattern, the world's simplest mitt. And I opted to use my color Petal Power, which is named after Legend's littermate, his sister. And I actually have a hat in this colorway, so it just made sense to make a matching pair of mittens. I knit the US small. Tin Can Knits actually has an app for your phone for their free patterns. You can certainly purchase and download their other patterns in the app, but it really made it really easy and quick to just kind of follow along either on my iPad or my phone. I used a US 5 to knit these. I knit the size small. I used my Rising Tide Calvert DK. Again, the color is Petal Power. These knit up super fast. I had these within, I'd say, a day or two. So great gift idea if you're looking for something really quick and easy. I did have the ability to wear these after we got a dump load of snow, and I didn't have any problems clearing off vehicles, holding keys, that kind of stuff. All right, so the next pattern that I worked on, because again, it was so cold. Can you tell it's not normally cold? I mean, occasionally we get snow, but I feel like we don't get a ton of snow, and we've had really mild winters, but this year it was just bitter cold, and the part of Maryland that I live in, we got snow multiple times. So one of those instances, it was incredibly windy and just kind of biting. And so I wanted a baklava and just something to go over my ears, kind of cover my neck, so that I was getting everything that I would get if I had a hat and a cowl or scarf. But this way I didn't have all the pieces while I'm trying to clear my truck, clear my car, shovel snow. So I chose the Ripple Baklava by Jessie Made Designs. I believe, oh golly, I think it was a $7 pattern. I'll put the information up on the screen. But I knit mine. Now I have not woven in my ends, but I did get mine knit. It is a super easy pattern to follow. I knit mine on a US 4. I knit the size medium, and I used two skeins. Again, I used my Rising Tide Fiber Co. Calvert Sport, 100% superwash merino. In the colorway she put them on the map. It's a speckly color, kind of, that I developed last year when Taylor Swift and Travis started dating. And then I held it together with the Rising Tide Fiber Co. Surrey Alpaca, that Somerset Surrey, in Frozen Fractal. So as you can see, it's just a really lovely kind of lavendery color with some pinks, yellows, all kinds of beautiful speckles. It does fit really nicely. I'm not going to put it on, but it just goes quite nicely, and it is incredibly warm. I believe the pattern called for using a fingering and then some sort of lace weight. I opted for Surrey over mohair, and then I wanted a little bit denser of a fabric, even though I was knitting on a size 4. So I chose sport over fingering. So that concludes everything that I actually finished in January and February. Now for works in progress. So as you can see, my mannequins made a little bit of a wardrobe change. I have a couple whips that have been lingering from years past, and then a couple newer whips or works in progress that I've been working on. This one right here, I've moved from the anchor sweater that was finished to this work in progress. This is the Metamorphic by Andrea Mowry. I've been knitting it on a US 6. I used 2 different colorways. The first one is an old colorway of mine. It's Rising Tide Fiber Co. It's called Dark Matter. It's like this eggplanty purple that leans rather brown. And then I paired it with Feederbrook Farms Entropy, which is a color changing yarn, and it is similar to Spin Cycle. This is also called Dark Matter. So you can see this one is also lots of purples, browns, grays, really great colors. And so this pattern is actually written for sport weight, using Spin Cycle and then a sport weight. I opted because Feederbrook's Farm Entropy is kind of one of those yarns that I feel like can swing both ways. It will kind of work for patterns that call for sport or worsted. So I substitute Feederbrook Farm for Spin Cycle all the time. And I opted, instead of something that was this huge color changing yarn and you were going to see lots of differences, I opted for 2 that were rather monochromatic in and of themselves. I started this again for teaching a class. So this was a bit more of an advanced class for people who understood the architecture of sweaters that I had taught them in the past. And then we were moving on to learning more elevated design elements, things like short rows. This sweater is knit inside out. Right now I have it facing right side out, so you can see that beautiful detail down the middle. It also goes down the sleeves as well. So this was a really nice sweater to kind of take some beginner students up to the next level. And again, I started it, but I never finished the sleeve. I literally just have this one sleeve. So I picked it up recently, picked up the sleeve stitches, and started working through my decreases I'm hoping to have this finished by the end of March. So hopefully I will have this. I may not be able to wear it this winter season because fingers crossed, we're almost out of winter, but I'll have it for next year. The next work in progress that I've been working on is housed in this beautiful rainbow tote. This is one of those Delicue snap bags. I'm a big fan of these. I like being able to see through them so I can easily identify what the heck is in the project bag. And they come in multiple sizes, so it makes it really easy to have different projects, and they slide so nicely into my backpack or into another larger bag or my pocketbook. So they're nice. This project, I'm not much of a shawl knitter, y'all. You wouldn't have guessed that watching my everything I knit in 2024, but I'm in the middle of a row here, so give me a second. But I have been trying to knit more of them as samples. And so this is the Albaqueque Sunset Shawl by Casapinka. You start casting on with one color, you work through some stripe sequences, and then you start going along, and then eventually there will be a lace panel on the other side. I am knitting this on a US 6, and I'm using my Rising Tide Talbot fingering in the 8515 base in the color Shell, yeah, which is the white with the really faint speckles, and then the pinky one with some purple and reddish speckles, that is called Berrylicious. I saw this in a shop as a sample, and I just really loved it. Again, I'm not much of a shawl knitter, but there's just something about this shawl that kind of struck me, and I decided to cast on. I did really well, and then I just kind of petered out. I think I got tired of knitting back and forth and working through the purl sides. Oh my gosh. I like to go round and round and round. If you've ever met me in person and you've talked to me at any great length, you will know that I primarily knit sweaters and socks because I really like the more meditative nature of going around and around. I don't like to engage with my knitting a whole heck of a lot. I'll do enough, for a textured yoke or a little bit of texture, but for the most part, I just want a basic sweater or sock where I can go around and around. All right, so the next thing that I have been knitting is a pair of vanilla socks. I don't follow a pattern. I just do a 64 stitch cuff and I work top down. Sometimes I'll do eye of partridge heel because I like the way they look. But I am a heel flap and gusset gal. As much as I like working after or a forethought heel sock, they don't fit me the best. I don't have the easiest time getting them over the arch and my ankle. So I really prefer a heel flap and gusset. So I am working on a pair of vanilla socks. I am using a Frogate Yarns Christmas sock set. It was called Christmas with My Nomies. It came with that's really hard. These two little minis in Christmas red and green, and then this beautiful speckly colorway. As you can see, I have casted on a green cuff. Now, I did finish my first one. So I started with a green cuff. I usually work 7 inches from the top of my cuff down to my heel. I worked a red heel, and then I did about 7.25 inches until for my my heel turn down to where I want to start decreasing for toes, and then I switched back to the green. So my goal or my plans for 2025, as much as I would love to knit a pair of Christmas socks every month to increase the number of Christmas socks that I have, I don't think that's a realistic plan. I will end up doing nothing sock wise except for knitting Christmas socks. And I really love knitting socks. And I have a ton from many years ago when I started my business where I always got the first sock done or the majority of the sock done in whatever my monthly sock colorway was. And I've never done the second sock. So I have a lot of socks that are already started on the go. I just need to finish them. And I would love to clear up some of those needles. Some of them are on waste yarn, so I just need to put them back on a needle, finish them, do their mate. So again, as much as I would love to do a pair of Christmas socks every month, it's just not doable for me. So I think doing a pair every 2 months should be doable. Now, I casted on and probably got to about here during the month of December because I had 2 pairs of Advent socks that I was working through until I kind of petered out on that. Essentially, I had 4 socks going at the same time, and then I got to the heels and I got bored because it was like, oh, well, crap, now I suddenly have 4 heels to do. And it's, again, I like to go around and around. So, not my favorite part of the sock. So I put those down. I did some DK weight socks and loved that process. And then I returned to this in January. I have sort of returned to the Advent socks. I'll probably talk about that in a future episode as I pick them up and actually work through them. But right now, I was excited to get back to this colorway. All right, so my last project is, again, living in a Delaque snap bag. I actually have a little basket in here. I use this when I'm holding multiple strands together. I like to use this basket. I just have like a plastic liner on the bottom, and I can pull both yarns from it at the same time. I think it's supposed to be like a bread basket. So if you want to go to your local Home Goods or TJ Maxx and find yourself a bread basket, it works beautifully when you're knitting with multiple strands of yarn. I'm usually sitting and I have multiple dogs in my lap, so I don't need a sudden movement and balls of yarns going in several different directions. So this just makes it a little bit easier for yarn management. But I am knitting with a new colorway that will go on sale in March 11th. So save the date for March 11th. I am part of a group of dyers that are raising money for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. And we've each created a special colorway where proceeds are going to go to raise money for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. And mine is called Radiant Recovery. And so I have opted to use this really pale, like pinky peach. It has pinks, it has golds, it has peaches. Just think of a radiant sunrise, and that's what I tried to get with this. And so I am working up the Metropolitan Pullover by Tori Yu. And I am holding that colorway with a skein. Let's hold it over here. A skein of my Surrey alpaca in shiplap. So it's a very natural color. So it really subdues the colorway and makes it just this beautiful peachy sort of colored top that really is lightweight. This is knit on, the pattern calls for a US 10. I couldn't get gauge with a 10 holding 2 strands together, so I am working mine on a US 9. I'm using my Talbot fingering in a 75-25 base with the skein of Surrey. Because this is knit on a US 9, this is flying off my needles. I want to say that I started this a week ago. And so I just have a couple more inches on the bottom that I want to get done. Then there's an I-cord hem, and then pick up the sleeves and knit down the sleeves. So incredibly fast knit. It has this beautiful eyelet raglan line. It also was an interesting construction with the shoulders. There's just a tad bit on the shoulders as well. I'll put up a picture of Tori's sample from the pattern. It's beautiful, and it's been really easy to knit up because, again, such big needles. All right, so that is everything that I have been knitting so far this year. I would love to hear what you're knitting, and if you have a favorite pattern that you think I'd love, because it literally goes round and round and round, I'd love for you to share that with me down below. Until next time, happy knitting, happy reading, and I'll see you next week.
Always think of you when spring comes, like it's something in the air at that time. Don't know why. Always dream of you when spring comes. It's like the heat on my